Okay, hey gang, happy Wednesday. Alicia Cross here, and if you don't know me, I am a yoga instructor, a personal trainer, a wellness coach, and I have been in the fitness industry for over 18 years helping clients and students just like you reach their goals. And I specialize in merging the sciences of exercise and nutrition with the ancient teachings of Ayurveda and yoga. And so today we're going to talk about Fat 101. So one of my favorite things to talk about is nutrition. And this comes from a question that I got. So if you follow me on social, so on Alicia Cross Training here on Facebook and on Instagram, you might have noticed that I got an air fryer. I got an air fryer for Amazon Prime Day. And somebody asked me, well, why did you want an air fryer? Because you eat healthy and you probably eat healthy fats. And I said, well, yes, I eat healthy and there are fats that are healthy, but it is possible to overdo it, even on the healthy stuff. And I definitely run into this with my clients. So clients will come to see me for wellness coaching, and they have weight loss goals, fat goals, and maybe you do too. But when they are talking to me about the way they eat, they say, well, I actually eat pretty healthy. And they do. They have a lot of good foods in their diets. You know, they're eating salads, they're eating the hummus, the almond butter, avocados, but it is really easy to go overboard, especially on the fat and carb sources, and most people aren't getting enough protein. So if you are trying to lose weight, specifically trying to lose fat, your dietary fat intake can be something that you look at. So it's not just about what you eat, but about how much you eat and also when you eat. So we're going to talk a little bit about fat today, and we'll get into things like cholesterol and the keto diet. So if you have a question, let me plug my phone in here. If you have a question, post it in the comments. And if you're here, if you found me live, give me a wave, say hi. And even if you're watching the replay later, if you have a question, just pop it in here and I will reply. Let me just plug my phone in. Make sure we're gonna... All right. Okay, we're back. Okay, so fat. So fat is another word for a triglyceride. And a triglyceride is 3 fatty acids and a glycerol. Your fat actually provides 60% of your energy at rest. And it's your organs that are using fat because they spare glucose for the brain, because the brain can't run on fat. And that'll be important later when we start talking about the keto diet. Your brain needs about 120 to 130 grams of glucose per day just to function. Okay, so fatty acids, they will make up things like your cell membranes, your myelin sheaths in your nervous system. Fats are also sterols, which are found in plants and animals. That is cholesterol. Cholesterol is an animal sterol. Let's see. It's also a precursor for bile salts, vitamin D. This is how you make vitamin D from the sun, through cholesterol. And cholesterol or sterols are also in hormones such as testosterone, estrogen, and cortisol. And triglycerides and lipids are also things like wax, like beeswax and earwax. So dietary fats are triglyceride, and they're classified as saturated, unsaturated, hydrogenated, or trans fats. So saturated fats get their name because all of the bonds on the chain are attached to a hydrogen atom. And this is why the hydrogenated or the trans fat is so bad for you, is because they kind of artificially hydrogenate. So they put all those hydrogens on there, and that's what allows it to kind of be, to have more shelf life and to be more solid at room temperature. But I think those things the trans fats aren't even allowed in foods anymore. We just found out they were so bad for us. Just making something that the body didn't recognize how to break down, that turned out to be a real problem. So we know we want to get more unsaturated fats in our diets, and specifically the polyunsaturated fats. So these are your essential fatty acids. Essential meaning that the body can't produce them, so we got to get them through our diet. So these are the omega-3s, and they come from fish, salmon, tuna, sardines. It's also in plants like flax, hemp, chia, walnuts. You can get these supplements from if you take like a fish oil supplement. The problem with fish oil supplements is mercury, and you can bypass that by taking an algae oil omega supplement. So that's what I take, an algae oil omega supplement, because that's how the fish get the EFAs, the fatty acids, from eating the algae. So you just go right to the source and get the algae supplements. When you're taking the algae supplements, you need to also make sure that you're taking flax, and that's what helps the body convert into what it needs. Helps the body convert EPA to DHA. Let's see. These types of fatty acids, the omega-3s, these are anti-inflammatories, and they've been shown to protect against dementia and Alzheimer's. Helps to reduce blood pressure and lower your blood triglycerol levels, so the fat that's found in your blood. It also reduces C-reactive protein, a marker of inflammation, helps reduce the risk of heart disease. It may also help with depression. Over 30% of the brain is made of DHA. Now, omega-6s, they are another polyunsaturated fat, and they come, the omega-6s, they come from the vegetable oils. So they're like the corn, safflower, canola, cottonseed, sunflower, did I say soybean oil. Now the omega-6s increase inflammation. This is why they're such a problem. They don't do the same good stuff that the omega-3s do in reducing inflammation. And our diet just has way too many omega-6s. So watch out for things like soybean oil, canola oil, peanut oil. You want to choose those other options like coconut oil, almond oil. You can get, coconut oil, olive oil, and you can get oil made from avocados, avocado oil. Those are all good. And so a lot of that is omega-9s, and they're non-essential, meaning your body makes them, but those come from meat, olive oil, grapeseed oil, avocados, nuts like macadamia, almonds, pecans, cashews, and pistachios. Okay, so we want to avoid those vegetable oils, even though they're really touted as being heart healthy. They're not. Absolutely no trans fat, no hydrogenated oils, and again, I think they're not even allowed in food anymore, so we shouldn't be finding those in our food. So we need fat. Fat is important. So it helps with the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. It builds cell membranes and the myelin sheaths in your nervous system. It makes your food more flavorful, and it leads to a greater sense of satiety. So if you eat a meal that doesn't have any fat in it, it's going to leave you feeling hungry. It also slows digestion, so you feel fuller longer. This is why it's important to have fat with your meal, so that you're not having a crash from the carbohydrates and looking for food a short time later. But what you want to remember about fat, and this is why it's really easy to overdo it with fat, is because 1 gram of fat has 9 calories per serving, whereas protein and carbs have 4 calories per serving. So fat has twice as many calories per serving. So it's really super important to measure and weigh your sources of fat. So, 1 tablespoon of olive oil, 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. Those are serving sizes, because it's really easy to go overboard with this stuff. And that's just our nature. We are meant to crave those high calorie, high fat, high sugar foods, because remember, a calorie is just energy. So we are programmed to crave those things, and that's why it's so easy to eat, so much butter and so much olive oil. But you really want to make sure that you're watching your portion sizes on those. And how much? Okay, so the American Heart Association recommends that your fat is no more than 20 to 35% of your total daily calories. So if you are using a tracking app, a food logging app like MyFitnessPal, which is free, you can program that for your total calories for the day, and then you can set your fat percentage, the percentage of the macronutrient fat, for 20 to 35%, whatever it is that you choose. And what I'll say here is that, if your goal is weight loss or fat loss, weight loss/fat loss, of course you want to lose fat, studies have shown that both, or either a low-fat diet or a low-carb diet, will give you that result. So it's not about demonizing one food group over another. It's just being mindful and aware. And that is why I love logging. So I do not think that you should log forever, but if you are kind of beginning this journey, or you're diving deeper into understanding food, logging can be a really great way to teach you about calories, about serving sizes, and it actually can help you be more mindful about have more mindfulness around eating, because you're actually logging the food in, you're reading the label, you're looking at what a serving size is. So it's a great teaching tool, great mindfulness tool, but logging is not a permanent way of life. So the liver makes 100% of the body's cholesterol needs. So your liver makes all the cholesterol that you need. But daily cholesterol it may not be as bad as we think it is, and we'll talk about that later when we dive into cholesterol. So according to the dietary guidelines for Americans, saturated fat should not exceed 10% of your total daily calories. However, a meta-analysis found no link between cardiovascular health and the consumption of saturated fat. So maybe you've heard this story that, this went back some time ago, that they just made the connection that, it must be eating a lot of saturated fat leads to, these issues with the heart, and that's not bearing itself out in research. And a lot of people who, have issues with their cholesterol and they stop eating those high fatty foods, nothing happens. So there's other things you have to do in your lifestyle and other foods that you need to eat besides just removing the saturated fat, like the animal fats and the things like dairy and butter. Okay, there's no standard for the daily amount of omega-3s that we need, but supplements are considered generally safe. You just need to talk to your doctor, especially if you're on some kind of blood thinner or you're planning surgery. Omega-6s, they're too high. We need to get more omega-3s in our diet. No amount of trans fat or hydrogenated oils is safe. And let's see. Yeah, and you can do low carb or low fat diet if you are looking to lose weight. Just got to see what works for you. Okay, so let's talk about cholesterol. So cholesterol is an animal sterol that cannot be used for energy. It forms cell membranes. It's the precursor for bile salts, vitamin D, and hormones such as testosterone, estrogen, and cortisol. So cholesterol is important, but remember, our body does make it. We get it in our diet through egg yolks, meat, shellfish, and dairy products. And remember that 1 gram of fat has 9 calories per serving, over twice as much as protein and carbs. So when you get your cholesterol numbers checked, they're checking your lipoproteins, your triglycerides, and they're looking at the LDL, which is low density, and the HDL, which is high density. And I had a professor years ago, she said the way to remember it is to think L for lousy and H for healthy. So you want more of those healthy, those HDLs, those high density lipoproteins. And the low density are, you store the excess, and the high density helps to transport from the periphery. So that's why the HDL is so good, because it's like kind of going in there and sweeping up and bringing everything back to be processed. So there are some numbers for acceptable blood cholesterol. So total blood cholesterol below 200, LDL 70 to 100, and HDL 40 to 60. So if you have high cholesterol, especially if your LDL, you're low, or remember lousy, if that's high, you might be looking at how you can lower that. So your doctor may talk to you about going on statins, and definitely I would encourage you to do some research, because there are side effects to statins. Actually had a client, she was doing some private yoga sessions with me, and her doctor put her on a statin, and she felt it pretty soon. She felt her body just didn't feel right, and she felt really tired. And those are some of the side effects of statins. So muscle pain, muscle cramping, tiredness. And some of the long-term negative effects of statin use can be that your risk of diabetes goes up, could lead to liver damage and possible memory problems. And we'll talk about, why low cholesterol is not why there are issues with low cholesterol. So you can have cholesterol that is too low. So some of the issues with low cholesterol is that you could have increased symptoms of depression and anxiety, and it can have some negative effects on cognitive function. So this is one of the reasons why I recently started eating eggs again. So I've been vegan for about 5 years, and a few months ago I started to eat, I put eggs back into my diet, eating an egg a day. And one of the things I was just concerned about is I was just really stressed out and not in the best mood, and I had worried that maybe I wasn't getting enough of the fats and the cholesterol and some of the other micronutrients like choline that are in eggs. So I started adding those back into my diet, along with a lot of other changes that I made. So since I didn't just make one change, it's hard to say what worked. I did a bunch of things and everything's been working for me. So you do want to realize that there are side effects to having too low cholesterol. And again, those are like mood, anxiety, depression. And a big part of that is because cholesterol is needed to synthesize vitamin D. Remember, we make vitamin D from the sun. We make it in our skin, and we can also take it as a supplement. And vitamin D is just so important for so many functions, and most of us are vitamin D deficient. So that's an important one to make sure that you're producing enough of or getting enough of. And again, cholesterol is important for forming that in the body. I got a question on my Instagram about what foods can help to lower cholesterol. So there are things you can do to lower your cholesterol. Of course, you want to eat more high fiber foods. This is why you hear about eating oatmeal, because that is a whole grain food that has lots of fiber. Walnuts are excellent for lowering your cholesterol. And it's really important that you're eating those healthy fats. Remember that HDL, the high density lipoproteins, that's what kind of goes in the periphery and cleans up all the LDL that's there and brings it back. So you want to eat the healthy fats. So that's things like salmon, flax, hemp, chia seeds. Take those algae oil supplements, and that'll help the body when you're getting the flax and the algae oil. Then your body can make the conversion that it needs. Things like olive oil. We talked about the nuts. Walnuts are really good. Avocados are really good. And avoiding the things that are anti-inflammatory, avoiding the things that are causing inflammation, the omega-6s, which are in the vegetable oils. It's really crucial to avoid those. But remember, studies have not shown that taking out the saturated fat sources has any effect. So it's really what you add in. And then super huge here is lifestyle. So not only what you're eating, but exercise. Exercise is how you can lower your cholesterol. If you are following me on social, here on Facebook and on Instagram, same name, Alicia Cross Training. A couple weeks ago, I posted a video from Jane who lowered her cholesterol, and she did that. She was somebody who was already eating healthy. We made a couple of tweaks to her diet, and she started doing strength training with me in my semi-private, and her cholesterol numbers went down, which is amazing. So it's your first line of attack against any of these chronic issues like elevated cholesterol or metabolic syndrome or high blood pressure. They should absolutely be lifestyle changes. If your doctor is not talking to you first and foremost about exercising and cleaning up your diet, if the first thing they're doing is reaching for a drug, you've definitely got to find another doctor and make those lifestyle changes. And then, of course, if you have made all the changes, if you are doing all the things, if you're exercising, you're going to yoga, you're eating the way that is healthy, you're eating whole foods, and then there's still an issue, okay, then you do some research about those medications, but that's not your first line of attack against these chronic issues. It's lifestyle, 100%. And we know that. I read or heard that it takes like 17 years for, once we figure stuff out, for it to kind of trickle down into mainstream. So we're in that right now. So we have some doctors that are on board with that. They know they're going to talk to you about exercise, but not all of them. So you want to make sure that you have a doctor that's talking to you about what you need to do to be responsible for your health, for your long-term health. Okay, so that's cholesterol. And we talked about all of the, just be mindful with alcohol, because that can raise your HDL, so you might need to cut back on that. And then there's some things you can do like cinnamon, turmeric, garlic, but definitely just eating whole foods, healthy foods, getting those healthy fats. Okay, so at this point you may be wondering about the keto diet. So the keto diet is not new. It has been around, and it was originally used to treat chronic issues. chronic diseases, and it has been shown effective for some chronic diseases, some serious conditions, things like diabetes, Parkinson's, epilepsy, some cancers, autism, TBI, traumatic brain injury, MS, Alzheimer's, even migraines. People are now using the keto diet for fat loss, and I believe we do not know really the long-term effects of the keto diet for weight loss. But here's what I want to really point out. Here's what's really huge. Well, one, if we're talking about these chronic diseases and they switch to a keto diet, I don't know what the research is what were these patients' diets before? Were they eating the standard American diet and then they put them on a keto diet? Because remember, the thing that is the common thread with all the diets that are really popular right now, if you're talking keto or paleo or Mediterranean, the common thread that all of these diets have is that you're eating whole foods. So I don't know if this was the factor that made the change, or if it is specifically if they've looked into these other diets at treating these conditions. But the common thread, the thing we can learn from all of these diets is that it's eating whole food, getting rid of the processed food, the sugars, and eating whole foods. So the other thing that I really want to stress about the keto diet is you have to be all in with the keto diet. It's not like if you are plant-based, so you eat mostly vegetarian and you have meat when you go out or when somebody makes you dinner. You have to be all in on the keto diet, and let's talk about a little bit of science so you understand why. So it's called the keto diet because you are in a state of ketosis. So not ketoacidosis, that could be fatal, but ketosis, that is a normal stage that our body enters into when we are no longer taking in enough carbohydrates to fuel our brain. Because remember, the brain, unlike the body, the brain can't run on fat, it has to run on glucose. So if you've been fasting for a long time, or sometimes even just heavy workouts where you've depleted your glycogen stores, maybe sleeping overnight, you've depleted your glycogen stores, your body says, okay, well, we're not getting any carbs in, we need carbs for the brain, so let's take the fat that's stored, convert it to ketones, which the body or the brain then can use for energy. So that is, you are in a state of ketosis. You have these ketones in your body, and you are in ketosis, and you're burning fat now. You're using fat to fuel your brain, because your body, remember, your body runs on fat. It has the ability to do that, your tissues. Now, it takes 2 to 3 weeks of dieting to get into ketosis, or 2 to 3 days of fasting, because you have to deplete all of the glycogen in your liver, or your body has to be conditioned to use the fat, which can take 2 to 3 weeks. And you have to test to see if you are in ketosis, or you can test, and you can do you can prick your finger, so you can do a prick to get some blood and test your blood. You can test on a strip in urine, because if those ketones are in your body, you're releasing them through your urine. If you are if you're not all in, if you're sort of eating the keto diet, so you're eating high fat, but you're also eating carbs, then you're not in ketosis. You're just eating a bunch of fat. And remember, fat has over twice as many calories per gram as protein and carbohydrates. So the keto diet is about 75 to 80% fat, 10 to 20% protein, 5 to 10% carbohydrates. If you have any of these major health issues that we talked about and you're considering going on the keto diet, of course you already have a doctor who's treating you for this, so you definitely want to be talking to a doctor if you're making these changes to your diet. If this is something you are thinking about doing for fat loss, you really need to understand that you've got to be all in, and there are side effects. You can, of course, have nutrient deficiencies because you're not taking in, especially a lot of grains to get vitamin B. There's something called the keto flu. You just feel horrible. You have fatigue, low mood, headaches, brain fog. It can lead to kidney stones. And again, we don't really know the long-term effects of being on keto for fat loss. All right, so that's what I wanted to say about the keto diet. Okay, so we talked about fat. It is one of the 3 essential macronutrients for your body: carbs, fat, and protein. It's not about demonizing any one food group. Most people who need to lose weight and lose fat are not getting enough protein in their diet, And even if you are eating healthy, you might be getting just too much fat and carbs for your nutrition goals. We talked about cholesterol and ways to lower that. So you want to eat the good fats and exercise. Lifestyle changes are the best way to manage these chronic issues such as high cholesterol. And we talked about some things that can go wrong if your cholesterol is too low. So you could have anxiety, depression, cognitive issues, and a big part of that is because cholesterol is necessary for the production of vitamin D, which is essential for a lot of things. And then we talked about the keto diet. So again, I think the thing that we can learn from all of these diets is eating whole foods, eating healthy foods, avoiding processed foods and all of the sugar. That's the common thread that they all have. So I know that this could be a lot of information, and maybe this just leaves you with more questions than answers. And so if you have those questions, I want you to post them here in the comments or email me anytime, alicia@aliciacrosstraining.com. And if you're ready to start logging your food and you want to know what should your daily calories be, what percentage of fat do you want to take in, you need some information, you need some accountability, then let's get you started on wellness coaching. And you can send me an email, you can post a comment here, and I will definitely help you clear up the confusion, find a way of eating that is sustainable for you long term, that helps you reach your goals, and I will hold you accountable. All right, guys, that's it for today. I will see you back here next week, Wednesday at 10 a.m. Thanks.